Hello, my name is Alexander Solozhin. I'm an RA here at the Institute of European, Russian, and Eurasian Studies at Carleton University. For our War Observatory project, we're conducting a series of interviews with experts in various academic fields relevant to the war in Ukraine. In this series, we cover basic and advanced subject matters relevant to the war. We intend for these videos to be used as teaching materials for faculty and students in Canada and around the world. Has Russia kind of settled for limiting its invasion to the southeastern regions of Ukraine? Or do you see Russia making further advancements into Ukraine, perhaps as far as Kiev?
It's a very hard question to answer for two reasons. One, it is a very contingent question. It's an issue of not only will but also the capabilities and the facts on the ground. Now, it is quite clear that the initial attempt was, if not conquering most of Ukraine, definitely deposing the government and establishing a puppet regime in Kiev. Now that failed. That doesn't mean that because it failed that Russia changed its long-term political goals. Now, after the first month or so, month and a half, of the first 6 weeks of the war, when that particular push failed, they adjusted their immediate military aims, but I'm not sure they changed their political aims as fundamentally undermining Ukraine as a sovereign state and its existence as an independent and free country. Now, I believe that long-term political goal is still there. The facts on the ground and Ukraine's fierce resistance against the invaders and through Kremlin probably surprising strong Western support and unity in defense of Ukraine by providing both financial aid, weapons, and ammunition, as well as the devastating sanctions imposed on Russia, might have changed their calculus in the short to medium term, as the facts on the ground will not enable them to either conquer most of the country or capture Kiev and establish a puppet regime over there. Now, that, like I said, that doesn't mean that they changed their particular political desire at the end. But the immediate aims seem to focus on capturing all of Donbass, but Luhansk and Donetsk regions, oblasts, as well as trying to push as much as possible on the south to control as much of the Black Sea coast of Ukraine as possible. Now, I would assume ideally they would like to make a push that goes beyond Kherson and Mykolaiv and all the way to Odessa in order to completely cut off Ukraine's access to the Black Sea, basically strangling Ukrainian economy and completely undermining any viability of Ukraine as an independent and sovereign country. Now, I don't know whether they will have the resources, both military and personnel resources, to be able to do such a push before winter comes. But I also think that they did not give up, at least that particular objective yet. That they think they are winning and grinding down the Ukrainian armed forces, and they might take in a sense, they might not be able to do this offensive that they are hoping to do this year, but they might engage it down the road again next year. It is also important to keep in mind that as long as Russia maintains a foothold on the west of the Dnieper River, they would still, and their control of Belarus, which is de facto became a Russian dependency at this stage, still provide them opportunities in the future, if they choose to do so, to take another step at capturing Kiev. The military realities on the ground suggests that in the short to medium term, that is very unlikely. They just don't have the capability right now to do so. But I don't think Putin and his close associates gave up the idea of dominating Ukraine and basically making it cease to exist as an independent and sovereign state in the long term. So their political objectives didn't change in the long term, but their tactical objectives in the short term seems to be focusing on Donbass and the south, and we will see whether they will actually try to maintain those puppet regimes or occupy it as such, or as the rumors suggest, try to stage fake referendums in September and try to annex those regions to Russia. And that will also give us quite a bit of a sense of to what extent their long-term political ambitions remain limited, or would they still harbor illusions and desires for capturing Kiev and beyond.
And how successful do you believe the grain export deal that was brokered by Turkey will be?
I mean, I'm pessimistic and skeptical about the long-term feasibility of that deal for a few reasons. One, Russia, less than in 24 hours after agreeing to that particular initiative, bombed Odessa port. I think it is, in a way, thumbing their nose to both Turkey and others and the West more broadly, saying that we could do what we want, regardless of the paper we signed. There are also, I think, technical issues that, including mining, including what particular route that those ships would need to follow, and all that kind of thing. So both on the grounds, many things can go wrong. Provocations, missile attacks, harassment of those ships, explosions due to mines, on all the other stuff, as well as continuing attacks on Ukrainian ports by Russia. So there are so many potential missteps that could derail the long-term viability of the deal that it is very hard to be confident that this deal will hold. It also will depend on to what extent Russia continues to see the food crisis as politically advantageous. My sense, and this is pure speculation, of course, at this stage, is that they will continue to abide by the deal for a little while, but say after several weeks, as things going on and in Ukraine and Turkey and others settled into a particular routine, and the fears of a food crisis, particularly in North Africa and the Middle East, started to subsidize, Russians could break the deal, could basically attack and this and that, just to show that that particular leverage is still there. Now, there are also other aspects of the initiative that enables Russia to skirt some of the sanctions, because there is this other third piece that was sort of a memorandum of understanding signed between UN and Russia that calls for facilitation of the UN to reduce the sanctions when it comes to the food and raw materials that goes into the production of food, which includes fertilizers, which of course means natural gas and oil as well. So the energy component there that provides insurance, limitations on insurance of Russian companies, banks, etc., etc. There's a whole potential loopholes that this deal can be used to weaken those sanctions regime. So at this stage, it seems like, but despite the difficulties and so on and so forth, the convoys seem to be getting prepared. The first ships went out, etc. But it's very early to say that whether this will be sustainable in the long run. And personally, I am skeptical and pessimistic. Partly, like I said before, we know Russia is notorious in breaking the agreements that they agreed. 94 Budapest Memorandum, to all the way to what we have been seeing with Minsk and other deals. So I am skeptical of Russia continuing to abide by this particular initiative, and might find it more advantageous to itself to break it when the time comes.
Thank you so much for meeting with me today and answering my questions.
It is a pleasure.